I only red.
Only red?
You know, I'm not discriminatory. I mean, if it's Cabernet Sauvignon or it's Merlot or Pinot Noir, it's okay with me. I just say, do you have red?
Wine
you have
snob.
No, I'm
really?
not. That's what I'm saying. I'm
you're not a wine snob?
No, I'll take anything that's red. It's okay. Chianti, right. It's okay. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Jadeveon Clowney is on the trade block. Kobe says Shaq kept him from more rings, and the Phillies get booed by the home fans. But we begin today with Jerry Jones sort of drawing a line in the sand about Ezekiel Elliott. As is his wont, Jones went on Dallas radio and he said he doesn't see a deadline approaching for the Cowboys to sign Elliott. In fact, it sounded like Jerry wasn't even concerned as he said, quote, "We've got a marathon here. We want Zeke when we get to the playoffs. We want Zeke when we're in the dog days of this season. A fresh Zeke, if we got to the end, would be great," unquote. Wilbon, is this a smart strategy by Jerry?
It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy. Jerry Jones did this. You and I lived this. Millennials may not remember 1993, but you and I do.
Yes.
We were often listening to Jerry as he would try out different theories.
This is what we call the Emmitt Smith scenario.
Yes. He'd stand right there, different stadium, different practice facility, same situation, in a locker room with reporters surrounding him, fewer. And he'd talk about situations and scenarios.
And what happened? Tell the kids.
They went 0-2.
Boom, end of strategy.
And Jerry looked at us as we stood there and said, "I'm going to get Emmett back here tomorrow."
They went to the Super Bowl.
Because we're not going to make the playoffs at 0-3. Right. So this is the same thing that could or could not happen with Elliott.
In terms of strategy, if you have a playoff team, and you want to wait for Zeke to come back and hand him the ball 40 times a game from week 10 on, that's fine. If you have a playoff team, here are their first 5 games. Giants at Redskins, Dolphins, and then Saints and Packers. Saints and Packers are tough. So I would say to you that there is no particular leverage that Ezekiel Elliott has. He's got 2 years left on a signed contract. He can hold out like Le'Veon Bell.
All his leverage comes from 0-2.
That is 100%
Neither one
right.
of them has any leverage yet. They only get leverage in September. Either one gets leverage when they start playing these games. And if the Cowboys go 1-0, Jerry's going to be popping his jersey. If they go 2-0, he will act like he's never heard of Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
That's the way negotiations play out. So everything else
left
we hear
Ezekiel
is
Elliott,
waste of time.
He can do a Le'Veon Bell, but they're not going to get rid of him. They're not. They'll bring him back and they'd franchise him at best for him. And actually, that's a lot more money.
That's right.
But he has no leverage yet. He does that 0-2.
What do we think is going to happen? Let's cut to the chase.
I always thought they would give him the money, and I still do. But I don't think they'll be 0-2. Not with that schedule. I don't think so.
Elsewhere in Texas, Jadeveon Clowney is still a no-show in Houston. Hasn't signed his franchise tender, hasn't reported to camp. And as a result, the Texans may be looking to trade him, especially since they would like to be rock solid at left tackle to keep Deshaun Watson upright. So far, Miami is the team that's being mentioned as a primary suitor. Tone Clowney and J.J. Watt, they form a ferocious defensive front. So would you seriously consider getting rid of that guy?
So here's how trades work. You make them if they think they help you. In today's NFL, you got to keep your quarterback upright. Deshaun Watson gets hit more than any guy in the league.
Anybody.
Okay, so you got to have an offensive line till he learns to get rid of the ball.
But didn't they already know
quicker.
this? They had an entire offseason, free agency and the draft to make something happen at left tackle.
They drafted a guy in the first round.
And they get to camp and they go,
so
we're not good enough.
I'm going to give you a situation.
Okay.
The Washington Redskins have a 20-time Pro Bowl left tackle, Trent Williams, who does not want to be there anymore. If you trade Jadeveon Clowney to the Redskins and you put him opposite Ryan Kerrigan, and I think they have a good defense now. They could have a great defense. To me, this is a trade that makes sense for both teams. But if Clowney doesn't want to play there, you got to have offense, Mike. You got to keep your quarterback healthy.
You also, in the age of offense, have to have somebody stop at if you want to be any good yourself.
They got J.J. Watt.
Okay, but J.J. Watt by himself can be double team.
And he hasn't been healthy every year.
And Tony, you need Clowney, a younger player out there with less wear and tear. And Clowney, the last 3 years, I understand he got off to sort of a slow start in the league.
Pro Bowl 3 years.
Last three years, when tackles for losses, he has been up there at the top of the list in the NFL.
So would you not consider?
No, I'd go get a left tackle.
Well, so is Trent Williams. He's going to be available.
Maybe.
What is he? He's not.
What are the Redskins? Maybe the Redskins don't want to trade him. If you thought of that.
Yes, but if he decides never to play,
okay, but
and they can get
they
to
also have a
Clowney,
quarterback they need to keep upright. They have a quarterback. They don't even know who their quarterback is.
Then they don't.
Keenum.
Then they don't need.
They don't need to keep him upright.
They want to get to Haskins eventually. This would make it a little quicker.
Please.
Carly Lloyd says she wants to give the NFL a shot, but not this season. She wants to work on perfecting her craft as a place kicker as opposed to a soccer player. Lloyd said, quote, "I don't want to go in there blindly. I want to actually attempt to do it. It's all about the technique. We will see what happens," unquote. Wilbon, does it sound like she's taking the right approach for giving the NFL a shot in 2020?
Yes. Yes, she sounds like a rational human being, unlike half the reporting out there that is completely irrational and breathless and all hype-based. Do you know that any kicker, and I can go back to high school, you'll say it's like me saying everybody in high school can make a bicycle kick, and they can. Every high school soccer player can take 5 steps up to a ball and kick it 55 yards. Carly Lloyd understands. That's why she talked about her technique and steps and all that stuff, because she's sensible. The people commenting on this stuff most often are not. So every pro kicker in camp, even ones for the Bears, can kick it 75 yards if they take that many steps up to a ball. Carly Lloyd is smarter than that.
So let's get to where we are right now. We are out of the theoretical part. The theoretical part is it a good idea to have a woman kick in the NFL? The answer, which we both agree with, if she can kick, yes, it's fine, I get. But now we're in the practical part, as you say. We're in the technique part. I talked to my boy, Dr. Chet Maxson, last night, who knows a lot about soccer. And he said, you can't go 5 steps. I mean, that's not going to work. Carly Lloyd admits this too. She and her trainer say, we got to get to where we can do this in a step and a half or 2 steps. And the reason is you can't go further back for the snap because the guys on the edge will get there and block it. The reason NFL kickers kick from where they kick from is because that's the sweet spot for kicking. So she's got to do it just like them. And then the question becomes, is she strong enough in her leg to do that?
There are more questions than not. That's how it is with professional sports.
But if she can
and people who ignore that are too stupid to listen to.
But if
I would love it if she can.
Yes,
but the video we've seen so far. By the way, when did we get to the point that producers, when they have one clip of video, just play it 800 times, even from the same angle? So what are you looking at? I need to see it 800 times. She took 5 steps, ran up to it, and kicked it through. It means nothing.
You got to do it from where they do it. We're rooting for her.
Nothing. We are. It's great.
And you can't put her out there in a kickoff because you're 10 on 11. I mean, you can't do that.
Oh, you mean on the kickoff?
Yeah, you can't do that.
But you said Garo, your premium, would just run off the field. He'd scoop up
and
his
you're 10. You're 10 on 11. You don't do it. Although by then there'll be no kickoffs. There'll be no kickoffs.
Tony, it's been a long, long time since we had a Kobe Shaq story in the PTI rundown. But a Lakers fan site called Lakers24 Ever
fan site
posted on Instagram a fascinating discussion, really was. By the way, they're wearing black tie, in which Kobe says that if Shaq had Kobe's work ethic, Shaq would have been the best player ever, and he himself, Kobe, would have, quote, 12 bleeping rings, close quote.
Yeah.
You buying that?
I'm just going to tell you this is the best story of the day. Okay, because it reunites people who hate each other and love each other at the same time and scream about each other all the time. Kobe can't go 24 hours without reminding the world how great he is. And so basically what he says is, Shaq's so fat and Shaq was so out of shape that he cost me this. It is so great when the guy asked Kobe if he had your work ethic, and Kobe said, oh yeah, he'd be the greatest ever, which is saying, I had the greatest work ethic of all time. Now, let me give you Shaq's rejoinder, which you well know. This is the best. It was, quote, you would have had 12 rings if you passed the ball more.
Would have had 12 rings, bro, if you passed it more.
I love this.
That was funny.
I love this.
They were look, it's Shaq and Kobe, and we miss this. Because all these people now who think they're smart and funny and combative, they're nothing compared to Shaq and Kobe. And they should never think they are, no matter how many stupid things they post all the time. Now, no, they wouldn't have won 12 rings because they weren't better than San Antonio, even at their best sometimes.
They're not getting 12.
Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. So the San Antonio Spurs were not rolling over dead because of Shaq and Kobe. They were worthy opponents, and one time, sometimes this guy won, sometimes that guy. So we're dismissing 12. No, they wouldn't have. They would have had at least one more because they should have beaten Detroit that year in 2004.
And all of that is fine.
But people like to say that about Shaquille. I mean, Shaq was great. And what Kobe is saying is kind of complimentary. Kobe's saying Shaq was so great. Shaq was unlike other bigs.
That's exactly
and that he was a
very
nasty,
complimentary.
competitive
Yeah, it's very
big
complimentary
man.
until what he's
Kobe
actually
was
saying is he's fat and he had no work ethic at all. And it's totally self-serving.
No,
it's not even a humble brag. Kobe is saying, I had the greatest work ethic of all time. Now, I love Kobe. But
Kobe had a great work ethic, did he not?
They can't stop themselves. They can't. Philadelphia fans are at it again. They booed Bryce Harper in his first game this season. Last night they booed Reese Hoskins when he dropped the throw at first that would have completed the double play and ended the top of the ninth, and instead the winning run scored. They also booed their outfielder, Sean Rodriguez, who I think hit a walk-off the other night, and then called the fans, quote, entitled. They cheered him, though, when he got hit by a pitch last night. Wilbon, have the Phillies earned the boos they've been getting?
You don't earn anything. You earn it by living in Philly. It's what they do. Now, you know, you love Philly.
Tell the people what you think of Philly.
No, I'm not going to tell them what I think.
You think it's a rat hole? You've said this 1,000 times.
You know, I have no regard for that part of Philly. The part where they think it's cool. They think they're smarter and tougher and better than everybody because they boo people and they boo Santa Claus.
That's what they
I don't care about that.
Did you stay in hotels overnight in Philadelphia?
I drove back to D.C.
That's right.
As often as I could.
Right.
So this is what they do.
That's right.
In Philly. And if you play there, there's one guy that we know of who didn't get booed in Philly. Julius the Dr. Irving. Yeah. This is what they do.
So this is where we differ because my son Michael went to the University of Pennsylvania inside Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I love the White Dog Tavern. I love the cheesesteaks. I love the Latham Hotel. I like on Sansom Street. Yeah,
the Rittenhouse Hotel. That's the only place.
No, the Latham
I
Hotel.
I stayed maybe 2 nights in Philly in 30
But this is how they define themselves.
I know.
God help us. We can't help ourselves. So we're going to boo everybody.
You find that to be
They're
good?
2 out of the wild card with 30-plus to play.
They got a pretty good team.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
But we're talking about specifically the booing.
It's
what they do.
Mike, it comes with the furniture.
Yeah, it does.
Let's take a break. Coming up, who you got in their latest beef? Big Ben or Mr. Big Chest?
We with him again. Is it a helmet day? And the Padre gets up and dusts himself off after taking a fastball to the noggin.
He got hit and starched out.
Usually only the Pirates order those up.
Well, I don't think this was ordered because nobody even looked at the pitcher. It's time to pound Wilbon and toss up.
I don't think so.
Let's get the first one from the producer over the loudspeaker.
Toss up. Whose side are you on in their dispute? Big Ben or Mr. Big Chest?
Okay, we're asking this because once again, these former teammates are talking about each other. The other night, Roethlisberger told Michelle Tafoya that he probably made a mistake.
He extended an olive branch.
I understand that. He said he probably made a mistake in criticizing Antonio Brown when there was an interception, and the direct quote was, "It ruined a friendship." And I agree with you, that was conciliatory. Yesterday, in response, Antonio Brown said, here's a quote, "Never friends, just had to get my ends. Shut up already." This is the critical phrase, shut up already, because to me, it simplifies how we should feel about both Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. Shut up already, although to be honest with you, I like it when Antonio Brown talks.
Antonio Brown's been a nuisance. The whole fall, he's been a waste of time. He's a nuisance.
You don't like the helmet stuff?
There's a phrase I'd like to use on this show.
You don't like looking at his feet?
But I can't use it on this show of what I think about Antonio Brown. All right, I don't want to hear any defense, even my friend Keyshawn Johnson, defending Antonio Brown. Don't defend Antonio Brown.
By the way, it's not the fall yet.
It's what?
It's not the fall yet.
If football is upon us, it's the fall. All right? And I got to hear about this dude's helmet and all his nonsense. Right. And he's now with an irrelevant team. Until they move to that new stadium in Vegas, they're irrelevant. Yes, the Raiders are. And if I'm his quarterback now, I'm thinking, oh, my God, I got to deal with this clown.
So I take it
either catch all the passes and make all the touchdown receptions.
Right?
Of course I'm taking Ben's side.
Okay. Next.
Yes.
Toss up. Bigger deal at last night's U.S. Open. Sloane Stephens losing or Coco Gauff winning?
So everybody is going to take Coco Gauff because everybody loves Coco Gauff, and I understand that. She might be the new Chris Evert if she gets on a great run here. But who did she beat? She beat somebody just like her, an unranked player like her. Sloane Stephens.
Yeah, but an 18-year-old who's supposed to be 3 years further along in the evolution.
Sloane Stephens won this tournament 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
She won the tournament.
What have you done
She
lately?
just lost to the 127th ranked person in the world, a qualifier in straight sets.
Yeah.
This is, to me,
sad.
the bigger deal because she won it.
It's a sadder deal because she's gone from the ranked third as recently, I think, as March, to now 11, and it's just it's not a good story right now. Coco Gauff.
It's a good story.
Get on board with Coco Gauff. You just compared her
Chris Everett.
to one of the
She has a
5
chance.
greatest players in the history of the sport.
Well,
Chris Everett.
Because I was there when Chris Everett made the run
Okay,
as a
that's the
16-year-old.
bigger story. Anytime you can mention Chris Everett
Well, she got all the way to the
Martina
semis
Navratilova or
where she
Serena
lost
Williams.
to Billie Jean King.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Today, golf is an uplifting story.
Yes.
You have to. Everybody feels good the moment they see her. Tony, she's must-see TV.
I think the other one is more intriguing because of the fall. Next.
Last one, toss-up, more impressive night. Manuel Margot or Russell Martin?
So Russell Martin threw a scoreless inning in relief last night. Scoreless inning.
He keeps doing it.
He has thrown, let me get this right,
4?
the 4th such scoreless inning in relief. His ERA is 0.00. Might not mean much to most. He's a catcher. Yeah. Okay, he's not a pitcher. He's a catcher. And still, I would say it's Margot, because Margot took one right in the helmet. He went down. He came back. He stole a base and then made he took a home run off Bellinger late in the game. So to me, because most guys would not have played, to me it is Margot.
I think it's Margot just because of that reason. You got to think 95-mile-per-hour fastball off the head, you're coming out. I mean, a lot of managers would have consulted with the head trainer and said, get out of here.
That's right.
We need you down the stretch. We need you whenever. But I will say, Tony, I don't want to dismiss Russell Martin, but he's a catcher. He knows more about pitching than anybody on the field except the pitcher. He's a catcher. He's been around. It is impressive.
It's 4 different times. Yeah. And I understand he's a position player and the game isn't in jeopardy.
He's not a position player. He's a catcher. He handles pitchers. He tells pitchers what they ought to do after the game. He advises pitchers during the game.
You could keep the pitcher and the catcher in the game if for one batter you just flip positions and let Martin throw to that guy. That's it. You all saw it. Wilbon never even in it. Let's take one last break, but still to come. Where does the loss of a star linebacker leave Alabama?
Going to another star linebacker, clearly. Did Justin Verlander deserve to get tossed last night?
He turned his back on the ump, and the ump tossed him when he turned his back. Justin Verlander was respectful in that regard. He shouldn't have been tossed.
Blue should be suspended.
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't have tossed Verlander.
He should be suspended.
Happy time, people. Happy 26th birthday, Shaq Mason. The right guard of the New England Patriots was named last year's Guard of the Year by Pro Football Focus. But that is not why we're saying happy birthday. We're saying happy birthday to Mason because his full name is Shaquille Olajuwon Mason.
How cool is that?
Which makes me wonder whether his parents would rather he play in the NBA than in the NFL. Of course, his 2 Super Bowl rings might caution them differently.
That's one of the cool naming situations of all time. I wonder why not, though, Shaquille Akeem Harrison.
Happy anniversary, Tiger Woods. On this day 25 years ago, Tiger became the youngest winner in the history of the U.S. Amateur, capturing the last 3 holes of his 36-hole title match against Trip Keeney at the age of 18. That was the first of 3 straight AMs by Tiger, and the precursor of what was the greatest decade by anyone in the history of golf.
So you're saying Bobby Jones never had a better decade, Jack Nicklaus never had a better decade.
That's what I said.
Arnold Palmer never had a better decade. I'm just asking.
Would you agree with that? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. A melancholy trails to Jay Lovinger, the great print editor who died recently at age 75. I met Jay a long, long time ago when we were college students in Binghamton, New York. A great editor is worth his weight in gold. Jay was gentle and thoughtful and brilliant. He got you ready to write a piece, and then he guided you through it. He worked at Inside Sports, The Washington Post, People, Life, and ESPN. He worked with such writers as David Halberstam, Gary Smith, Jim McBride, David Remnick, and Bob Woodward. I'm grateful that he also worked with me.
I idolize all of those writers, but none as much as David Halberstam. He worked with David Halberstam. Wanted to be David Halberstam.
So people don't realize this because they're not all writers. Writers tend to rebuff editors all the time, but when you get a great editor, a person who gets you ready to write the piece,
you owe that person more than you can ever repay.
And all the credit always goes to the writers, and nobody knows who the editors are. No errors today, and we go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Royals will reportedly be sold for $1 billion. Does that make sense to you?
How about this? They sold for $96 million in 2000. How about inflation?
That's a good franchise.
It is.
I thought they'd go for more.
$1.2 billion for the Marlins. Not worth
They'd go for more.
Alabama linebacker Dylan Moses is going to have ACL surgery. Could miss the season. He's a big loss, right?
He's a great linebacker. Nick Saban says they're thin at linebacker. I don't know what that means. That's a relative term, I would think. The Lions signed quarterback Luis Perez, who learned to play the position through YouTube videos. Your thoughts?
You see this. We travel overseas. We meet people who have never been in an English-speaking country. They say they learn to speak English flawlessly by watching the Honeymooners. And we believe that, right?
No.
Yes, we do. Justin Verlander got tossed for cursing an ump last night. Is that deserved?
Verlander went out of his way to turn his back on the ump.
Yeah, Pat
He got squeezed on a two-strike pitch.
Suspended.
I thought he did the right convention. I don't think he should have been tossed. I don't. Last one, Serena against 17-year-old American Katie McNally tonight. What do you predict?
I mean, obviously, I think Serena will win, but this is not like playing her arch rival who she just beat for the 19th consecutive time. Might take her a while to get going.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. And I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
Ken Salmon, thank you. Shout out.